All right, we're on the record. Let the record reflect the defendant is here, represented by Mr. Farr, who's also present.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
The Commonwealth is here.
Rob Sanders and Casey Burns for the Commonwealth Judge.
All right. We're here for sentencing in case number 19818. Mr. Farr, have you and your client reviewed the pre-sentence investigation, the comprehensive sex offender pre-sentence evaluation, the victim statement, as well as your client statements, which were attached there too?
Yes, ma'am, we have.
Any corrections or admissions?
A couple of minor things with respect to the PSI. On pages 1 and 2, it has an 11/21/2019 arrest date. His arrest date was November 14th, 2019. He was arrested in Georgia. And again, it's minor, but he would be entitled to custody credit from the date of his arrest, and so would add just about 7 days to the custody credit on page 2. And then after that, again, minor on pages 13 and 14. There is a Mr. Thompson used, which I assume should refer to Mr. Tate and was probably just a holdover from a prior PSI. Beyond that, Your Honor, we didn't note any other significant additions or corrections to the PSI.
Ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor. And then, we had an opportunity to review everything else. And with those additions and corrections to the PSI, this is an agreement to serve, Your Honor, and we'd ask the court to impose sentence.
Argument, just a sentence as recommended?
Yes, Your Honor. This was a case early on. We had been working with the Commonwealth to resolve, and I know that this recommendation was made to you after due consideration and amongst the prosecuting attorneys, Detective Cox, who was here, and also in consultation with the victim in the case. We believe that it is a just resolution in a lot of circumstances, and I won't purport to speak for the Commonwealth, but we would ask the court to follow the recommendation and impose a 12-year sentence concurrent on each count.
Commonwealth.
Judge, we would ask the court to follow the negotiated sentence. This is a plea agreement that was negotiated in consultation with both law enforcement, and both Deputy Cox, Deputy Adams are on this Zoom docket with us, as well as the victim in the case, who is also monitoring the proceedings. We believe that given the complexities of prosecuting a 40-year-old offense, that this resolution is in the best interest of the Commonwealth. The victim is in agreement. We'd ask the court to impose the agreed upon sentence.
So then what you're telling me is the 12 years that you're recommending is based on your proof?
It is based on the available proof, the complications of bringing in proof and establishing chains of custody and things of that nature in a 40-year-old case, Judge, as well as I'm sure Mr. Farr's would be attacking memory and things like that. It's a complicated case, and in other circumstances, perhaps we would be able to obtain a longer sentence. However, given this defendant's advanced age, as well as the age of this case, I believe this sentence is in the best outcome, or is in the best interest of the Commonwealth, and is the best outcome for both the victim and the Commonwealth.
So the victim is in concurrence?
She is.
All right. Anything else?
No, ma'am.
Mr. Tate, I'm going to accept the recommendation of the Commonwealth. I've got to say, though, it's probably some of the most horrific facts I've read in a long time. So other than the fact that it will bring comfort to the victim, that she doesn't have to appear in court and that she doesn't have to go through some of these things again, I assume that you've read her statement.
Yes, I have.
Yeah. And
Oh,
while I
okay.
understand in your statement as well, you talk about remorse, but in any event, really horrific acts completely changed her life. So it wasn't just an act or several acts in a night. It was something that pretty much deteriorated her joy of life. And so in other circumstances, I would reject this, but given these circumstances, I will accept it. And so on the charge of rape in the first degree, the court will sentence you to 12 years. On the charge of sodomy in the first degree, the court will sentence you to 12 years. On the charge of kidnapping, the court will sentence you to 12 years. In accordance with that recommendation, the court will have them run concurrently. You'll be required, of course, you understand the time you're looking at with regard to the probation, or I should say the parole. You'll be required, if in fact you are released in your lifetime, to register for lifetime. In addition to that, you must complete the sex offender treatment program. Your DNA should already have been collected because that's how they found you, I believe. There's a 5-year conditional discharge period that also runs with regard to each and every one of these charges. You'll be required to give your blood, which I assume that you have already done as well. There are certain places that you can't live, of course, and those would be around children. They'll continue to be able to take your blood to check for any HIV infections. You can't reside near a school, a daycare, or other locations where children are congregating. You can't have any contact with minors, again, subject to you being released in that period of time. You can't possess any sexually arousing materials, including magazines, videotapes, and any materials downloaded from the internet. You can't have any photographic instruments containing stills or video cameras containing any restricted materials. You can't use computer equipment for internet access for any of those materials. You can't have a relationship, romantic, with anyone unless permitted by your treatment provider and probation and parole. You can't have any employment. And some of these things, given your age, may seem silly to say, but I want you to understand those restrictions and others that can be imposed upon you by the legislature, so they change those restrictions from time to time. You understand that not registering, if you are in fact released, also subjects you to further criminal prosecution. And there will be other types of conditions that are placed upon you upon your release, if in fact you are released. That's the order of the court. Mr. Tate. I'll sign those judgments and they'll be forwarded to you upon completion. Thank you all for your time today.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, Mr. Tate, you're excused.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Kenton County.
Thank you, Your Honor.